On Network Africa today, 16 people dead in attack on Grand Bassam Beach Resort in Ivory Coast. The court case challenging Uganda's Museveni's fifth-term victory begins today in Kampala. Plus, South Africa's finance minister fails to meet the deadline to respond to police questions on his role in setting up a spy unit at the Revenue Service. Network Africa begins right now. Hello everyone, I am Amarachi Ubani. Before we get into the horrific shooting at a beach resort in Ivory Coast, let's check in on stories that made headlines this weekend.
Former Ugandan presidential candidate Amama Mbabazi has found video recordings it says contain evidence of presiding officers being instructed by their superiors to pre-take ballot papers in favor of President Museveni. The video recordings are part of the more than 60 additional affidavits of evidence Mbabazi filed in the Supreme Court to support his petition challenging Museveni's election. And in Morocco, tens of thousands of Moroccans marched through the capital Rabat on Sunday to protest against UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's position on the Western Sahara disputes and rally support for the king. Waving portraits of King Mohammed and Moroccan flags, too, the protesters chanted, "The Sahara is ours, the king is ours," as they packed the streets near the Parliament building in a rally supported by the government. Last week, Morocco's government accused Ban of not being neutral in the Western Sahara conflict, saying he used the word occupation to describe Morocco's presence in the region that has been at the center of a dispute since 1975. Meanwhile, a piece of debris found by a South African teenager will be sent to Australia for testing as part of the investigation into the disappearance of a Malaysian airline plane 2 years ago. 18-year-old Liam Luther was on holiday with his family in Mozambique in December when he spotted the piece of debris. His family then took it back to their home in South Africa.
Confirmed that this serial number is from a Boeing 777, so we do know it's from a Boeing. We just don't know if it might be MH370. And they've also confirmed that no other Boeing has gone down except for MH370.
South African authorities plan to hand over the debris found by Luther to the same Australian team.
Back to the present, no fewer than 16 people have been killed in an attack on the Grand Bassam Beach Resort in Ivory Coast. The attack happened on Sunday when gunmen stormed the beach and opened fire on beachgoers. While security has never really been a problem in Ivory Coast, especially since the civil war in 2002, this attack has raised concern that terror groups might be interested in the small West African nation.
What was supposed to have been a quiet evening of rest and relaxation soon turned awry when the gunmen showed up. Witnesses said about 6 of them targeted hotels at Grand Bassam, a weekend retreat popular with Westerners, before being killed by the Ivorian Special Forces after a gunfight. Not all the nationalities of the dead are known, but authorities say of the 16 people killed, 4 of them were Europeans, while 2 were part of the security forces. Yapi Marie-Claire saw what happened.
Truly, it was terrifying. It was truly terrorist, because the people that were with us told us that once this man started to speak in Arabic, at that moment they knew that it was terrorist. We never thought that this could happen here under these circumstances. It's truly not easy. It's not easy. It's not easy.
A Reuters reporter said he saw the bodies of 3 white people at Grand Bassam's Chelsea Hotel and another in the Hotel Etoile du Sud next door. Security forces moved to evacuate the area surrounding the beach. Bullet holes riddled vehicles nearby, and some windows had been shut out. When he visited the site of the attack later, President Alassane Ouattara said the number of the dead was 14 civilians and 2 special forces, plus the 6 gunmen, bringing the death toll to 22. While expressing his condolences, he promised to deal with terrorists in Côte d'Ivoire. While Côte d'Ivoire has never been a bed for terrorist attacks, Al-qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb said it had carried out Sunday's shooting. The area, Grand Bassam, happens to stretch towards south of the Atlantic coast, meaning the terror group may have made its way into the country for a while now. Akim has claimed responsibility for major attacks on luxury hotels in other parts of West Africa, mainly Mali and most recently Burkina Faso.
And France is offering support to Ivory Coast following the deadly attack at the beach resort. 2 top ministers are on their way to the country to express solidarity with Côte d'Ivoire. France's Foreign Minister Jean-Marc Ayrault is expected in Abidjan tomorrow alongside Interior Minister Bernard Cazeneuve. As expected, French President François Hollande has condemned the attack, describing it as cowardly and odious. French intelligence investigators are already in Ivory Coast to help with investigations into the attack. The latest terror attacks in Ivory Coast call to mind the presence of some major terror groups in Africa. And let's just take a brief look at them. First is Al-qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, Akim for short. It's a former ally of and affiliate of core Al-qaeda. A group was pushed out of Mali by French and West African militaries last year and is reportedly trying to regroup in the desert. Then there is Al-Shabaab, also a former ally and affiliate of core Al-qaeda. The group has mainly contained itself in Somalia, but most recently has been carrying out attacks in Kenya. West Africa's main threat, Boko Haram, also has links to Al-qaeda, but has also pledged allegiance to Daesh or ISIS. The group is responsible for attacks in northeastern Nigeria, where security forces have made great gains in stamping them out of the country and the region. Finally is the Lord's Resistance Army, localized in Uganda. And what's different about this group is its form of extremism is said to be fundamentalist Christian. Let's talk more about the future of this so-called attacks on West Africa. We have joining us now on Network Africa, Colonel Najim Shobo. He's a security expert. Colonel, thank you so much for joining us on Network Africa.
Thank you very much.
So this is the first time that Ivory Coast is experiencing a terrorist attack. What do you think this means for the small West African country?
Well, the Ivory Coast, according to the reporters, that was invaded yesterday with 6 attackers, killing 16 persons, 14 civilians and 2 soldiers, because Ivory Coast was identified as one of several countries in West Africa at the risk of being targeted by Islamic militants. This is a message for Nigeria, because which country is the next? If Ivory Coast has been identified as one of several countries, how many countries are we having left that are on the coastal lines? So Nigeria should be getting ready. Our security agencies are expected to be doing the mock exercises. They are expected to be going to the hotels and all the restaurants to see who are the visitors they are having, to check the list, and equally continue to patrol all our holiday resort centers, most especially the beaches, so that we are not caught unprepared.
Colonel, before we go into, what we should and should not do, Akim has carried out attacks in Mali and also in Burkina Faso most recently, and now it's Ivory Coast. What does this say about the group's modus operandi?
So take a look at you discover that Mali was invaded, the luxury hotel in Mali was invaded in November 2015, and Burkina Faso in January 2016. Now we are in the month of March and Ivory Coast has been invaded. Easter break is fast approaching here. So what we are saying here is that the country should be getting prepared to see that people are not caught unprepared. The country should be proactive.
Do you think that Akim's presence, because Akim usually is localized in North Africa and now making its way down towards West Africa, where we're already dealing with Boko Haram insurgency as well as some other smaller terrorist groups, do you think that Akim's presence in West Africa makes much impact, you know, despite the presence of this other terror group, Boko Haram?
Well, if you take a look at it, you discover that terrorist organization is now a global phenomenon, and West Africa is a very fertile ground for them now because of the level of low resistance from our security forces. And if you take a look at it, you discover that terrorist organizations, their targets are not most often their primary target, but the secondary target, which is the softer ones, the civilian populace, the holiday, the teachers, and all those people that are lowly educated, who cannot resist, who have not been trained in any military or paramilitary training, so as to be able to identify terrorists or dishonest human beings around them. That is why West Africa is not a breeding ground, and already we have lots of people that will perpetrate such acts. Look at the planning harassment, look at the remnants of the Boko Haram that have been developed by the military men, and of course don't forget, some of our Boko Haram members are in Mali. They joined Al-qaeda. They have an international linkage. So therefore, there are better breeding grounds for this type of people that we are looking at. And today, the international terrorist organization,
okay,
Colonel, terrorist organization and their characteristics.
Colonel, you're also you're calling for security forces to be more vigilant. Now, West Africa. Remember when President Muhammadu Buhari assumed office, he reached out to neighboring West African countries, Niger, Togo, Cameroon, and so on, and they all formed the Multinational Joint Task Force. Do you think this group is strong enough to deal with Akim if it does make West Africa a hub?
Oh, great. You discover that even when you are looking at the issue of containers, or probably the policy of elimination, more emphasis will be placed on the Nigerian troops, not the Cameroonian, not the Chadian troops, but Nigerian troops will have to take the bulk of the consequence. And that is why we are looking at our military men, because of the weapons that have been purchased recently by the Nigerian Army, including the drones that have been purchased. The Nigerian Army has the capability to be able to man all these territorial waters in conjunction with the Nigerian Navy, because most of the Cameroonian and the Chadian soldiers, they are more landlocked trainers. But in Nigeria here, we have more of these special forces who can operate in the air, on the sea, as well as on the land. And that is what made them to be special forces. And if you look at the organization or the organogram of the Chadian and the Cameroonian army, because they are very few in size, they are single-oriented in terms of training, because they don't have this vast area of water or land. And of course, because of their population and their financial or economic background, they could not be able to maintain such a force that will become specialist in nature. So the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Navy and the Nigerian Force combined should be able, and I'm very sure they will be able to contain the insurgents if proactive measures have been taken.
Colonel, really appreciate your thoughts on the issue today. It's important that you mentioned the Nigerian Army being able to handle this, because there is speculation that Akim had actually been in Ivory Coast long before now, coming via the sea. Thanks a lot for sharing your analysis with us. When we come back on Network Africa, a look at the political situation in Uganda as opposition parties begin to submit their petitions, with the hearings beginning today. Please join us again.